This is Inspiring Design, where unique innovators come together to share their knowledge, share their insight, and keep us up to date with the latest industry trends. And here's your host, Roshan Senanaik.
Hey guys, we've got a social story here at Iona College, and today we're going to be talking with Daniel Davison, the head of Department for Design and Innovation here, responding to the call of arms for the Herston Bio Fabrication Institute. And they've produced over 6,000 masks for the COVID-19 pandemic and assembled 28 different 3D printers, 6 of them being borrowed, and call to arms have been an amazing collaboration, and they've done an incredible feat here. So let's find out more details. With an incredible career in education, Daniel Davison, he is the head of Department for Design and Innovation, including industrial technology, design, aerospace, digital technology, here at Iona College. Mate, welcome to Inspiring Design. All right, mate. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your story here at Iona? What's been your history leading up to today?
So I've been head of design innovation at Iona for about 18 months now, since I started 2019.
Yeah.
Before that, I worked in the state system just down the road at Brisbane Bayside State College. I got a lot of education there as a teacher, and was fortunate to get this role here.
Awesome. And I understand that you've been at Iona for a relatively short period of time so far?
Just since the start of last year.
Awesome. And so let's jump straight into it. We're surrounded by a ridiculous amount of 3D printers. Tell us a little bit about what's going on here. What's led up to this point with what we're seeing in the background here?
Just leading into the end of term 1, when the COVID sort of pandemic was, but it was pre its peak. Schools had just announced they were closing. The Herston Bio Fabrication Institute, which works out of the Royal Brisbane Women's Hospital, they've got sort of a research arm there. I think they work with QUT as well.
Yep.
They put a social media post out looking for anyone with 3D printing capability to start producing these face shield frames.
Yeah.
Heaps of schools got behind it. I got, I think on the Thursday before school finished, I got maybe 4 people had posted it to me or tagged me in it and said, hey, you interested in this? I sort of stomped around the place on Thursday, thought about it for a little bit, and then Friday morning I got up early and right, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Walked in, we had 14 printers on site, but only like 8 of them were assembled because we're sort of building some facilities for them. So I rounded up a bunch of people, put together some new printers, called up a friend of mine down at Brisbane Bayside State College and asked if they'd be happy to lend us their printers. And just sort of figured out the logistics and just got on with it, and then started printing the frames right away. By the Saturday morning, I'd contacted the lady at the Bio Fabrication Institute, and because they're working in a government building, she didn't get back to me till Monday, so we'd already made around 2,000 frames.
Wow.
And actually by that stage it was only about 1,000, but.
Yep.
And I said, hey, look, you've asked for 3,000 in 3 weeks. We're probably going to be able to produce that every maybe 5 days.
Wow.
Can you handle that volume?
Yeah.
And then she rang up and she was like super excited. She's like, I'm in my boss's office. He's really excited. Like, how are you able to do this? I'm like, oh, well, I've got 26 printers set up. We're just punching them out. Like, I'll bring some over and just make sure they're actually going to work.
Yeah.
So after I had everything set up, it took, days to Friday, Saturday, Sunday to set up. Late Sunday evening, I sent the principal and the rector an email just saying, hey, just occurred to me, I should probably let you know something that's happening in the school.
Yeah.
Here's a link. The reason I'm doing it, I just think it's something we can do. Like, we've got the facilities, yada, yada, yada. And the rector who lives on site came down and saw me, and he goes, you know what, I really, really liked that you did it and then asked for permission. It's like you just got on with it, got it underway, and then you're like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Ask
for forgiveness, not permission, right?
Yeah. Well, in my role here, it's a little bit easier to be able to make independent decisions, but it sort of clicked with me. I'm like, I do that a lot.
Yeah. No, look, I love that. And I think this kind of social collaboration, bringing together different stakeholders, you've done an incredible job. So obviously this is, even though it's been your, I think, brainchild, you can't achieve this kind of thing with collaboration. So who's been involved with this type of feat, and everything from your school to external collaborators. Who's part of the team?
My connection down with the school I used to work at, Brisbane Bayside State College, they're only about 1.5 kilometres away from Iona. The relationship there hasn't always been fantastic, as private school and state schools sometimes are. But with a colleague who works down there, he was able to lend me 6 of their printers. And I just thought it was fantastic. And since school's returned, we've been down there, we've had some photos with our students and their students, we've shared it on social media as this, really capitalising on that idea of collaboration. And I just really love the idea that it doesn't, like in this sort of situation, it doesn't matter that you're a private school or a state school, like we can all be doing something. And so that collaboration is actually going to grow over time now.
And I think that's the beauty of it. This is the power of collaboration. You see the public sector and private sector, instead of being isolated in your own different corners, I think coming together shows what we can do. And I think I wanted to ask you before, how many masks have you made so far?
After the first sort of week, where I was really calibrating all the machines and getting the system down right, we were making around 700 a day.
Wow.
Of disposable masks.
Yep.
They were printing 35 high stacks, and they were printing back to back. So over a 2-day, I think it was about 50-hour print. It was printing 70 frames across all the printers.
Yep.
Is where we get about 700 frames in every day. We transitioned to reusable masks about 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
And they take a bit longer to print. They're about 5 times as long to print. So we're making maybe 200 of those a day now.
Awesome.
But these printers have been running 24 hours a day since the 4th of April.
Yep.
This right now is the first time they've been turned off for 5 weeks.
Yeah. Wow. That's an incredible amount in a very, very short period of time. And I think that's again shows the power of technology and collaboration, and a single idea coming into play to make a massive impact for people. And given the time period where we've had, everyone was scared to find masks, this is a huge opportunity. I think, so let's go into the details, right? And I want to walk through and understand the mindset behind, firstly, understanding how to come up with this type of thing. Not everyone has ideas and are able to execute things really quickly, really effectively like this sometimes. So for the listeners, tuning in, especially considering they're in the education sector, what was the mindset? What went through your head? What was that thought process that led you up to, walking through, identifying a problem, and then coming up with a solution, and then essentially taking that through to execution using the technology that's available?
I think the attitude leading into it is just like, just do it. It's a thing we can do.
Yeah.
I knew that many schools had sort of 3 or 4 printers.
Yeah.
Did the math quickly in my head and went, well, geez, like my volume, I can be doing as much as 5 or 6 schools, and that's not a brag. That's a like if I can, I should. Connecting this technology to the real world, after getting the project going. You start thinking about it quite a bit and going, geez, the kids could learn a lot from this.
Yep.
When the students return, and after posting things on social media and things like that, I was getting 4 or 5 emails a day from students who are in my class, students that weren't in my class, family members from around the community. Our Facebook post that first went up had 2,000 likes and over 1,000 shares.
Wow.
And the messages that were coming through, it was just bringing so much hope to the community.
Absolutely.
So I think once this project is finished and the students return, we'll be able to use this quite a bit as a learning opportunity to go, hey, look, you might be designing very simple things at school, very trivial or prototypes or toys even, but the connection this technology has in your brain to the real world to go, like a 3D printer works this way, and hey, look, there's this deployable container that can be dropped into Haiti after an earthquake, and all it needs is a hose to a dirty river and someone to shovel some mud in, and they can make temporary housing while they rebuild their community. That's a 3D printer.
Yeah.
And kids start to sort of see that connection.
Absolutely, and I think it sends them a huge message about what kind of a simple idea can do, and they're just going to follow. I think you're affecting the mindsets of that next generation on how they look at a social point of view, because there's no profit purpose in the forefront here. And I think that's one of the reasons I love this story. It's because it's coming together at a time of need, solving a real world problem. Now, let's walk through that next point. In terms of the technology, what software packages did you use?
For this particular project, they gave us the STLs, the design files, to use. There was a few different options. At first, you just chose which one worked best for your machines. And then they came out of the university in Melbourne and the Prusa, their workshop. They've been making the same masks as well. These actually have Prusa written on the side of them. The software, I definitely would have been able to design these if I was asked to, but because they were dealing with the logistics of it, they need it to be a particular way when they get there. We just went with their file. It came as a single file, so I used an open source slicing software for 3D printing called Cura, although there's many other ones that you can use to be able to stack them so that we can print them overnight and keep them running. Don't have to come in and press restart constantly, things like that. That software has so many options, so many features that you can tweak and customize, and there's massive communities online of people that hey, look, I want to do this, or my printer's doing that, and people give you these suggestions and help you tweak things. That step in that process was actually really powerful, having so many printers, because even just the gap between each of the layers to make sure that they were easy to disassemble, but still, still sealed. Because if they're not sealed, they're not going to get cleaned properly and things like that. So I was able to test sort of 0.05 millimeter differences across 15 printers in an hour to go, this one didn't, this one didn't, this one didn't. Hey, this one separates. Now these ones are too far apart, and go okay, and whittle that down to go, this is the gap I need to use. Whereas if you only had one or two printers, that might take a day or two to be able to get that sort of level of, I guess, customization.
Absolutely, and I think I'm smiling while you're talking, because I think that process you've gone through to quickly test, just to find that millimeter differences on the most optimal thing, and that's the problem solving, critical thinking in a creative way, using the technology. That's so important. And even the fact that thinking about it, going, we need to stack this so that they can run overnight and produce as much much products as possible, as in less time as possible. I think it feels like it's automated in your head, but those are the little elements I think that teachers really need to focus on when they're translating design into that next generation, because when it becomes automatic, we then problem solve very quickly, on the go, really fast, like you've done. That's great. And so taking this from here, what's that next step from this point onward? Are you guys looking at producing an X number by an X date?
The need for this product's actually starting to slow down, because obviously
restrictions being lifted.
Yeah, restrictions being lifted. We didn't quite hit the peak, that curve flattened very quickly for us, but which obviously as a country we are incredibly happy. The contact we've got with these went into clinical trials at the fever clinic at the Brisbane hospital there. A lot of these will get used eventually. That may not be right now. It may not be for this particular purpose. But the big thing is that that Biofabrication Institute now has all their QA processes in line. They know how to respond quickly and what things need to be checked to be able to if this a pandemic hit again in 5 years' time, a completely different one. Which it tends to happen, and they could ring up schools and go, hey, this is how you need to do it. These are the sort of settings you need. This is how you assess for your quality and that sort of thing. And they know how quickly they can expect them back.
Absolutely. And have you ever thought about taking this beyond Australia?
Well, actually, there's communities around the world that are printing these. So some of the forums that I engage on, there'll be people with these same printers in the UK, and they're printing mask savers, which keep the elastic bands for masks off the ears. They're printing the exact same frames in the UK. All their maker spaces and things like that are becoming little hubs where they're collecting and sorting and making the shields and sharing all that information. It's really exciting to be a part of that, in that front end of the wave, to have a stake in it, not just to be sitting back and reading about it, which you do for a lot of things as a design teacher too. You're sometimes time poor. So to be looking at that, and people will be like, hey, where are you getting the stuff to make the front shield out of? And people are like, I'm cutting up Coke bottles, like, and they'll go, oh, okay, well that's made of PETG. I can buy that in a sheet, and then I can cut it down. Then all of a sudden, PETG is like impossible to buy. Like I tried to buy some last week, and like you can't get it in Brisbane at the moment. Nor can you get 6 mil acrylic because they've made all the sneeze guards. But then people start reverting to overhead projection sheets and all these different materials, which like it's just that. Like it's just the
like finding
immediate,
repurposing,
but it's the immediacy of the improvisation and innovation. Like that was, I found that really inspiring to teaching. Like
absolutely, and I think that's what the important thing here is, and which leads me to my next question. Actually, what do you think are the key skill sets that are required, that have undergone in this process, if you were to break it down, that educators can then focus on, honing down those skills with their kids?
Don't be afraid of failure. Like people get very caught up in trying to get it perfect the first time. I think you refer to it as failing forward.
Yes.
Like embrace it. Know that that's part of the process. Like look for it and go, hey, look, like this is probably where it's going to fail, and then be excited when it does.
I mean, even in the fact that part you mentioned about testing the gap, how many times would you have failed and you got one right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And that one now sits across all of the packages, and that's what you need. You need that 1%. It doesn't matter how many times you failed, you've got it right. So sorry to interrupt. Let's keep going.
That's right. A lot of working with state schools and things like that as well. A lot of people sit behind sort of a cost barrier, I guess, and a lot of times that's true. But sometimes it can be an excuse or a reason not to do something. Like pick your price point. These printers here are $300 each. If I was at a state school and we bought one a year for 5 years, there's 5 there now. Laser cutters are dropping in price. Most technology is getting cheaper. Almost like Moore's law, but not really. And if funding is a big issue, reach out to businesses. Reach out to most big businesses will have a community grant scheme. Usually the bigger impact they have environmentally on the world is the more money that they'll give to schools. Like I've found that in the past. Like find those opportunities. Ask people. When I started this project. The first thing I knew was I'm going to need a lot of filament. I bought 200 rolls of filament. We got an incredible discount for volume, but that stuff's not cheap. I just started calling up some businesses that I had a vague connection with or connection with the school and said, hey, look, this is what I'm doing, and was able to generate a bit of money there to be able to buy the filament and make sure that the cost stayed reasonably neutral.
And I think that's the beauty of it. You're coming up with ideas kind of like a startup almost. These are entrepreneurial skills that are just framed into a social context through this pandemic. But essentially what you've done is capital raise and come up with some startup funds so that you can implement a prototyping version and meet that minimum requirement through what we call an MVP, a minimum viable product. And this is great. I love that. And you've just reached out to businesses. You've cold called, the slightest bit of, if you had a business card, that's almost enough. And I love that. So sorry, let's keep going. I'm just excited.
No, you're exactly right. I use that term as well with the minimum viable product and things. And the conversations I've had with people is just like, they talk about what's the biggest thing. And I'm like, it blows my mind the scale that you're able to work at. It feels like a business. It feels like this is something that you would do in an industry, not in a school.
Absolutely.
And the people in our community sort of see that well and go, like, wow, that's amazing that you're able to do that much. And that's been really great. Some more advice that I'd probably give is, just ignore naysayers. Like there'll be people in your way, there'll be roadblocks that will tell you can't do this or you can't do that. A lot of the time people won't agree with your vision, but it's very hard for them not to agree with your outcomes. Just stay true to what you think is right. Like, get advice when you need to, get approval when you need to. But sometimes, and if you're not successful, does it matter?
You've had to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
And putting that into kids, teachers are probably nodding their head right now going, I tell kids that every day. But are the teachers doing it themselves? Are they letting, their people, well, not their people, but are they letting people around them dictate like what they do and how they
I think it's about that leading by example and setting up that benchmark for your students to almost go and emulate what they're seeing. And I think that's the beauty of it here. Your kids are just going to jump into this kind of stuff, because it's almost like you've proven that it works, you've shown them how it works, and they can just follow through, and for them in 10 years time, it's just going to be an automatic process.
Exactly, yeah. That's one of the big things we're trying to do here, or I'm trying to do here as well, is like teach the kids early. I've bought enough printers to be able to put some in our year 5 and year 6 classrooms, and I've said to some teachers down there, I don't really care what you do with them.
Yeah.
But get the kids seeing it, get the kids understanding how it works.
Yep.
That way, when we get them in year 7 and 8, they already know that part of it.
Perfect.
And we can do what we'd normally do in year 9 and 10
Yep.
in year 7 and 8. And then 9 and 10 becomes a growth year. And like by the time they're in senior, they're actually looking at going, well, hang on, like I can adapt this technology. They're not learning the technology anymore. It's native to them by that stage.
Yep.
Never work in isolation. A lot of teachers work in isolation, especially in the design field. There's not too many of us out there. But the world is more open than ever, and in fact, with COVID-19, it's actually more digitally open than ever. The channels, the people that were never using computers or never using these sort of platforms are now using them and now becoming proficient at it. Like, reach out, talk to people. The connection we've got down at Brisbane Bayside, we now have a resource that they might go, hey, do you reckon you could lend us 5 printers for this project we're doing for the next month? And like I can pick these up, put them in the car, and being $300 each, does it really matter? If they're $6,000 or $7,000 printers, you sit there scratching your face, going, I don't know, probably have to sign some paperwork, probably have to ask for lots of permission. But when they're a few $100s each, it's not that big of an issue.
Absolutely, and I think that's brilliant. Now, one of the things that I always like to tie in with these episodes is one of my favorite topics is design thinking. How integral has this been in this process to achieve this? In your point of view, has that played a role?
The design aspect of the project was pretty limited, simply just because it needed to fit within a particular box that was set for us. But the design thinking mindset definitely wasn't. There's problems galore. This morning, before you even got here, I had 2 printers up on the desk, up on blocks, literally on blocks, adjusting a few things because they weren't printing right. I've had to design different elements of the printers that were causing issues over time. Different bits of them wear. Like, for example, like a regular 3D printer that you'd use in the school, you might use realistically an hour a day with students. Like these printers have been running 24 hours a day for 6 weeks. So those little things that might wear over a year or 2, they wore in a week or 2. Parts of it were just getting destroyed, and because of the volume as well, and that's every day, like that first 2 weeks, every day I'd come in and there'd be a big spaghetti spool of filament. I go, wonder what's wrong with that machine, and then I'd have to figure out what was wrong with it. And then another one, it would be binding up, and I'd be like, something's going on there. And you have to pull apart motherboards. You have to get on Google, reach out to people in the community. A gentleman who lives on the other side of Brisbane contacted us through our Facebook page and said, hey, can you send me the G code? I want to start printing these as well. And we were trying to look, well, how's he connected to the college? He's commented on our college Facebook page, and we're looking up student last names. We're trying to figure out, is he an uncle? Is he a father? What is he? I end up, I'm sitting there in the principal's office. I end up just flicking through on Facebook, sent him a message and said, hey, just wondering how you connected to the college. He goes, oh, I'm not. A friend shared the link to me.
Wow, there you go.
And then I was like, yeah, cool. Here's the G code. Next day, I had a problem with a printer, and I was like, hey mate, do you have a spare hot end for a 3D, for these printers? He's like, yeah, I got 2. I was like, would you mind if I come borrow it? I've ordered them. Yeah, I've ordered them on eBay, but they're going to be 2 weeks away. Yeah. And I just want to get this up and running again. So, drove over there, picked it up, come over, reset it. He goes, oh, here's a handful of nozzles and some spare tube. And then him and I were sort of talking every other day going hey, look, if you turn infill off and then if you turn your wall thickness up, you'll actually get a faster, stronger print. Yeah. And you're able to play around with different settings and sort of bounce off people. That's the important part, There's only so much knowledge that one person can have, and knowing that you don't know everything is really important.
And I think embracing that truthfully is what allows you to wholeheartedly approach people like that. And the beauty of it is people want to help, people want to collaborate, people want to get involved. And most of the time they're waiting for someone to almost put that hand out and reach out to them. So if you can do that, it makes really cool things happen like this. And I love that. So What's your advice for schools and universities listening in? Because I get a very diverse bunch of listeners. You know, some people are from university, there's students in that, then there's teachers listening in, and there's design professionals. I feel like there's there's a lot of takeaways from this story for all of those elements. What's your advice for schools and unis?
Just do it. Just get into it. Just get into whatever you can. If you've got an interest, if you've got a resource available, if there's an industry close by to you, like just find these different things. Like you can, it's a very easy job if we just keep doing what we did last year.
Yep.
No
growth.
Yeah, I often tell people I've never taught the same assignment twice.
Yeah.
And that there's partial
Pretty
truths to
powerful,
that.
actually.
Yeah, you always need to change it, and some teachers unfortunately walk in and want to just dust off the whatever it is and put it in front of the kids, and if you keep doing the same thing, you keep getting the same results, and some people are happy with that. Personally, I don't subscribe to that mentality. And I think that's part of the reason why I was probably hired.
Love it, love it. And what about for the students listening in? Because there are a lot of design professional students, the ones that are going to be in the industry in the next, couple of years to the next 10 years. What's your advice for them?
Push yourself, work above what your teacher's asking you to do. Where curriculum in Australia and Queensland and the world is probably behind where it needs to be. In 50 years, 100 years, we'll probably look back at this time and go, is that really the way we're teaching people?
Yeah.
The world's mindset is moving forward, but the way that teaching happens is slower to that forefront, I guess. Like there are individual teachers doing amazing things.
Yeah.
But from a student's point of view, you guys dictate the terms. Like if the teacher gives you an assignment, go, hey, look, you've asked for this, but can I do this?
Yeah.
Like, can I do it this way? Hey, that printer, do you mind if tell me what software you use so I can go home and learn it? Where do you think your teachers are learning most of this stuff? They're YouTubing it, they're Googling it. All they're doing is just, they're not recycling the information, but they're digesting it and showing it to you in a format you can understand. Take them out of the step. That's what I try to do with the kids. I take the teacher out of the step. With 3D printing, with laser cutting, there is no point in a student process anymore where the student has to send me a file or put it into a communal machine. They have the software, they have the drivers, they go straight to the printer, they go straight to the laser cutter.
Yeah.
And that takes time. That takes it's a change engine. But
I think that's very powerful because you're essentially handing over the complete accountability to your students, and it puts in turn actually a lot of trust in them. It shows that you believe in them, trust in them to go and do what they need to do, and I think that's why it takes them to that next level. So
can I
really love that.
Share one little story?
Absolutely.
Last year, it was my first year here. I just assembled we put together 2 printers. We're just about to use it with year 10s. And the kids started using it. We had a little trouble with the drivers and things like that. So they were having to bring you the file or email you the file so that you could get it sliced and put onto the printer.
Yeah.
And then 2 printers wasn't enough, so we assembled 2 more, and then immediately they were used, and then 2 more. And then I happened to be going on year 7 camp. Now we did an 8-lesson unit with our year 10s, so that's a week and a half of a thing called compliant mechanisms. If you've ever seen Vitazium on YouTube, it does this great thing. I watched the clip and I was like, emailed this straight to my other design teacher. I'm like, I want to do something about this.
Yeah.
We took the idea of just a simple binder clip, and we said, this binder clip's got 3 parts to it. A compliant mechanism is essentially going to do the same thing with a single part. You should be able to extrude it. Is kind of the key, more or less the key mechanism. His example uses vice grips that have no pivots.
Yeah.
So we set that task to the kids. They did divergent thinking, which they'd done a couple of examples for previously, and I was like, cool, so you need to do a concept map, you need to do a full page of divergent sketching. We were using this, fold the page, I think it's 8 times, you get 16 boxes, that's how big a thumbnail sketch should be.
Yep.
Flip it over and then you've got 2 big boxes to do some convergent thinking. Straight into Inventor, model it up, get it on the printer. So here's, but we just got the software up and running on the kids' laptops so they could slice it themselves and get it onto the printer. My last lesson with them, I went, this is how you do it. You do this. I've sent you a profile that you can put into the slicer so you don't have to worry about all the settings. Press slice, put it on the SD card, plug it in and press print. What if it breaks? What if it doesn't work? I don't know. Just push it to the side and try again. Like, see if you can figure it out. Like, you know, you can adjust the bed this way, but you probably don't need to. Yeah. I went on the Year 7 camp for 3 days, and I said to my students, that was the last 3 days of term, I said, right, you've got your folders. I want your concept map, your divergent and convergent thinking sketches, and your prototypes in your folder. Whatever is in your folder is what I mark. There's no, you know, next term, if you have tech issues, not my problem. You've got a class full of experts that will help you. Now, I knew the supervising teacher is a good guy, but he'll sit there and supervise the students. He probably didn't bring a lot of expertise to that area. So I knew it was all going to be on them. First day back in term 4 was a pupil-free day. I come in, I started going through and marking. I got about halfway and I just sort of shook my head and I emailed the principal and emailed the Dean of Teaching and Learning and asked them to come down to my first class with my students. And I walked into my first class with my students and said, guys, like I got halfway through marking your assignments, you know, your compliant mechanism assignment there. And I just didn't know what to do. I emailed the principal, emailed the Dean of Teaching and Learning. Look, they're going to be down in 5 minutes to have a conversation with you guys. And they're all just going white in the face and looking at me going like, what's going on? And I said, so I got halfway through and I was just blown away with the work that you guys had done. I was pulling out 2 or 3 or 4 prototypes out of each folio. I saw these beautiful coloured sketches, these concept maps that were just bursting at the seam with ideas and highlighted key points. And I said, like, I did not know how to celebrate your success well enough to the level you guys deserve. You did this without me. That just absolutely, you know, just gives you like pins and needles to go, you did this without me. So I said, you got 5 minutes, rearrange the room into a big O shape, lay out like a little showcase. And they came down, they had a couple other people with them, and they walk around, they're asking the students like, wow, what's this? Oh, what's that? Like, and the diversity of solutions was amazing. Like, you know, there's like ones that clip around like this and they'd made like living hinges and all these different sorts of things. And the kids were just like beaming, going like, I get to share my work. I get to show this stuff off, you know? And
I think that's the beauty of it. And it, I think, goes back to even that little sentence you said when they were worried about failing, you know, what happens with that machine if something, and your mindset was, doesn't matter. Let's just figure it out. Let's find another way, right? And I think that little sentence would have instilled a lot of trust in them for them to almost take the free reins. Hey, even if we mess up, have this slight failure, it's not the end of the world.
No,
we can keep going.
One of my best answers to when a kid says, like, you know, what if this happens? I'm like, that's a really good question. And you just sort of stare at them and like you pause and you wait for them to go, yep, would I do this? And you're like, that's a possible solution. Like, and you just start
them to think.
Yeah, and you get this weird little smirk on your face, and then you start to like, you know, you go, okay, well, let's figure it out together. What do you think we can do? Like, what does the problem actually do or mean or cause, or you know, like, is it a big deal or a little deal? Like, you know, and getting them to sort of own that, or conversely, send them away if they don't give you if they just bring you problems. You know, like your conversation with kids for all the time. Like, it sounds like you're listing a lot of problems and not many solutions. What do you mean? Oh, you're just telling me what's wrong. Like, you're not telling me how to fix it. But you need to tell me how to fix it. Well, what makes you think I know any better? It's your project. Like how about you go think of like 3 solutions and then come and tell me the solutions and I help you decide which is the best one. Yeah. And like, I tell kids all the time, I'm a teacher because I don't know how to do anything. Like
I love that, actually.
Yeah. Like, if I was good at this stuff, I'd be be doing it for real. Like, so like, I'm terrible at coming up with new ideas. What I'm really good at though now, having been a teacher for 10 years, is being able to grow other people's ideas. So if you come to me with a little seed, I'll help you grow the seed, but I don't know where to get seeds from. Like, that's why you guys, you haven't had creativity beat out of you yet. Like,
Thanks so much, mate, and it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, no worries, Herston.
That's it for today, folks. So make sure you jump onto the Apple Podcast and Spotify playlist and listen to this and share it with as many people as you possibly can, because this kind of social story needs to reach as many people as possible. Now, lastly, before we leave, feel free to reach out to Daniel at Iona College and make sure you share your love and thoughts and even ideas on how you can potentially collaborate with them in future in this time of need. So before I go, click that subscribe button and feel free to share your thoughts and love on this topic for today.